What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Tony Maritato here again. And in the next series of videos, I'm going to answer these questions one at a time because each one of these questions is immensely important for your recovery. So let's start with the question on the screen. What are my precautions regarding movements and positions after surgery? And this is specifically for the rotator cuff repair. What positions should I rest my arm in? What positions should I avoid? These are just the most important questions, especially during those first couple nights at home, first couple weeks after surgery. So what they're recommending here, do not actively move your arm away from your body for 4 to 6 weeks following your surgery. And that's a very standard recommendation. In addition, do not lift any objects even if you're just bending at your elbow. So we'll talk about protecting the repair site, but let's just finish this and then we'll get into the detail. Follow your surgeon or therapist directions regarding rotating the forearm away from your body to protect the repaired tendon. When lying on your back, we recommend that you put a pillow or a towel roll under the elbow to support the arm. Most of you should be sleeping in your sling. Your sling is going to have what's called an abduction pillow next to it. You don't have to have an additional pillow if you're already using your sling. Many patients find that laying on a 30-degree incline wedge in bed is more comfortable than lying flat. Truthfully, most patients are sleeping in the recliner. Some patients find sleeping in a recliner more comfortable during the first few weeks after surgery. Initially after surgery, you should not reach behind your back with the operated arm. So let's talk about this for a minute. What really is the goal? Now, the rotator cuff is really made up of 4 muscles and their associated tendons. I've got a separate video that talks about the anatomy of the rotator cuff. Typically, the muscle that's on top, the supraspinatus, is the muscle that's been repaired, but every procedure is going to be a little bit different. For example, here where I am in Ohio, some of our patients have the rotator cuff repair, but then they also have a biceps tendon procedure done because there was some damage tearing to the biceps tendon. Patients who have had biceps tenodesis are not allowed to actively flex the elbow for 4 weeks following the surgery. So patients that have had a rotator cuff without the biceps tenodesis, they are allowed to actively flex and extend the elbow. We need to understand the specific guidelines based on your case, but for this, essentially what I want you to consider is you're typically in the sling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, unless you're doing therapy or unless you're taking a shower. And when you're out of the sling, no, you are not allowed to move the arm away from the body. You're not allowed to reach overhead, reach behind you. The function here, the purpose, the goal is to allow the repair site to take hold, to become solid. If we put tension through that repair site, that's a really weak site. That is where we could run into further injury, re-tearing the tissue. So every surgeon is going to play it somewhat conservative. Now, that being said, I also explain to my patients, you might be a 22-year-old CrossFitter or an 82-year-old grandmother of 3. You might be insanely active during a normal day and exercising, 5 times a week, or you could lead a more sedentary, retired lifestyle. Nobody knows. These guidelines are the best general guidelines for the majority of the population. So if you feel that you should be able to do something more than your surgeon has potentially laid out here, talk to your surgeon, talk to the nurse, talk to the caregivers that are really running your rehab program. But my goal here is to give you the general guidelines. So we want to protect the surgical site. Again, when you think of the most common injury to the supraspinatus tendon and the repair is there, that muscle is primarily responsible for moving the upper arm, the elbow, away from your body. If this is 0 degrees of flexion or abduction, moving away to about 15 degrees, that's where that muscle is doing its job. That's the movement that we want to limit and protect as much as possible. If you have other questions, absolutely reach out to your surgical team. Otherwise, in the next video, I'm going to go ahead and touch on the next question.